Welcome to yet another beautiful episode of Two Thumbs Undecided. I am, we have a camera going over here. We have, some guests gonna be popping up right here in what we call post. We're gonna edit them in. We'll get to the guests in a second, so take them away. Boop. They're gone. This is,
I'm gonna be seen? Shit.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're gonna be seen. I forgot to say. There you go. Nick got his hat on.
That's
The one thing
I
I
gotta
have
get
to
dressed.
Sorry, we've been
Now
gone
I'm
for a little bit.
ready
We've been living life. We've been doing one thing, one step at a time. The mic setup is still being figured out. This is not our day job, nor is this even a job. This is what we do for, dare I say it, fun.
Yeah, and this is not my beautiful wife and not my beautiful house.
Yes.
What's that Talking Head song?
Um,
This is not my beautiful life. This is not my beautiful wife. Where is my house?
I wish he would have kept, rhyming as he was going.
Where is my lovely mouse? Who stole my stinking blouse?
I wish that
I'm
was...
such a fucking louse.
Whoa.
A louse means lazy, I think. Sorry for swearing, too.
It's all good.
I'm not the blue one.
Yeah.
Sam's the blue one.
I did join the Blue Man
Sam
group.
swears like a... I don't even know if sailors swear that much anymore. Maybe nurses. Doctors?
This is an episode on strikes. We're talking about strikes, the union strike that is happening. And we have our two guests today
Hi, guys.
who will talk about it.
Probably want to take this down so it's easier to
It's
see
fine.
them.
Now I gotta key that out. You. All right. So we have our two guests who we'll introduce in a second. And then we're going to talk about the union strike going on. I don't know a whole lot about it because I am I'm in post.
Privileged. To not be in a thing that has strikes.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it. I don't necessarily feel privileged. I kind of want to strike. I feel like a lot of production, there's a lot of crazy work schedules and crazy thing going on. But we have two people today who know much more firsthand the set life. So we'll introduce them for
Right
the
now.
first time. One of them is going to be right here, and his name begins with a C. If you want to introduce yourself.
Oh, hello. Here I am introducing myself for the first time this episode. Connor Jake Wade Copeland.
I
That's
remember
my
that from
name.
last time you talked about that.
Yes. I
Yeah.
do. That's a very striking first name or middle name. How could I forget?
I love it.
So
Connor,
Connor, tell us,
yeah,
what is your job in the post or in production world? What do you do? What do you do?
well, yeah, what the heck do you do?
Currently, the job that gives me money is being an office PA for a major motion picture.
I did not know that you were an office PA. I thought you were doing something with audio.
Nope.
Where do you get that?
I thought you were. So you hang out in an office all day?
Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty nice. Air conditioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got air conditioning, it's got running water, basic plumbing.
Does it have coffee?
Does yours not
Yeah.
have coffee?
No, like mine doesn't. Like I remember back when I used to work in Pittsburgh, and before the COVID got us, we had a whole
Sounded
setup.
like you said coverage.
COVID.
Okay, COVID.
We had a coffee stand, and it was a normal office setting. Now that I'm I'm a COVID compliance officer, we really have to fend for ourselves with coffee and.
Wow, that's pretty not
Bathroom.
great. Sounds like we should have a strike
Maybe I
over
should strike.
these situations.
I mean, I did just get the job, so.
Well, we're going to continue on to our next guest. He begins with the letter N.
N.
And also a longtime friend of the show. Why don't you introduce yourself, Nick?
Hello.
Oh, sorry, I just said his first name. But what's your full name?
My full name is Nick DeVoe.
Middle name, please.
I want you guys to take a guess what my middle name is. Starts with a J.
Donkey.
5, 4, 3,
J.
2,
Junkie.
1.
Junkie.
James.
Jethro.
It's James. It's James. It's the most basic name. Starts with the letter J.
That's not. I feel like Jake. Well, James is. I guess because it's a biblical
It's
name.
Bibby.
My name is Nick. I make money right now also by being an office PA. I used to do more assistant work in a sort of freelance realm where, kind of production by production. If like a producer or director needed an assistant, I would hop in and do that. I've never been a full-time assistant. To be clear, because of that, I'm not a union member. I'm not a member of IATSE, but still like assistant roles still kind of, suffer from the same bullshit that people in unions do. And I don't know, one thing we should probably get into later in the episode is how even though unions exist, they're still kind of exploited just through a lot of, loopholes and whatnot on the producer's ends. But more than that.
Yeah,
later,
let's get into that. Let's get into that. Maybe not that specifically now, but I think a lot of this episode will be talking about, some of the bullshit that we've all kind of experienced on set, because I feel like, we've talked about a while ago, we had a whole episode on PAs and stuff, but we've never really dived into some of the true horror stories and kind of just like what the life is of working below the line, which basically is anyone that's not the DP, actor, or director, or writer. Basically the person that actually, the people who are doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes.
They have feelings.
We have feelings. We
They
are
have
those
families.
people. We don't have families, but yes,
Well, I mean,
for some
they have
people do.
families.
Yes. Some of them do.
Yeah.
Some have families. Some have dogs. Some have cats.
Also, people who are bachelors, if you will, have to provide for themselves so they can maybe one day repopulate the world with a family.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of jobs on production, or like people use production like below the line jobs as like it is like it's more than a full-time job, but it's treated as though it was. It's like you're lucky that you're here.
Now, let's get into the psychology of why we've gotten to this point where we need to strike. Why are people above us not giving a shit of the union people of this union?
Well,
Nick, what do you think?
I think it all comes down to time. A friend of mine works in wardrobe, and they made a post the other day that I think explained it pretty well, which is everyone here familiar with the boiling frog idea?
We are, but for the people at home, if you could explain it.
Yeah, for the idiots, go ahead and explain it.
For the dum-dums at home.
So if you're a fucking idiot, and you don't know what I'm talking about, the boiling frog idea, theory, whatever thing is this, I don't think it's actually true, but it's the idea that, look, if you put a frog in a pot of boiling water, it's going to jump out. But if you were to put a frog in a pot of lukewarm water and then slowly turn the heat up bit by bit to a boiling point, the frog will stay in the pot until it's boiled and it's too late. I don't know if that's actually true, but take that idea, and it's kind of been that way with a lot of standards to the film industry. So for one, it's always been regular that we've had 12-hour days. That's just kind of been a thing since like the 30s, when like labor in general was pretty fucked. And just no one's really questioned it ever since. And the boiling frog problem is producers finding ways to get more than 12 hours out of people. So for example, there's travel time. There's also going over. There's meal penalties. But all of these things are starting to become factored into the way producers tend to, schedule film shoots. And to be clear, this isn't every producer. I know a lot of producers who care a lot about their crews, and there are some producers who care about people, so I don't want to generalize. So for example, like I just worked on a really big show in New York that used to have a reputation of going way over 12-hour days, having schedules that got really fucked up. And this season, the producers took extra steps to make sure that wouldn't happen again due to the sort of problems it was having last season. So like there are good producers out there, but this is speaking very generally. And a lot of it, honestly, from what I've heard, a lot of the worst stuff is really in LA as far as the way these kind of rules are exploited.
Interesting.
One example is so there's New York has one too, but there's production zones, which is in LA it's a 30-mile radius. In New York, I want to say it's a 3-mile radius from Columbus Circle, but it's basically it's a zone where if an on-location shoot is happening within that zone, crew members have to commute to that zone themselves, and they don't need to be put up in a hotel room, and they can't be compensated for gas. If a production is outside of that zone, then they have to be put up in hotels by the production or paid for gas, and basically travel and lodging is reimbursed. So sometimes productions will get really, really clever with how they use that. So for example, there's a really good video on YouTube explaining how with the LA production zone, if you live in Long Beach, way at the southernmost tip, just inside the production zone, and you have a shoot way up in, I forgot the name of the region, but it's in the northern part, kind of in the northern part of the San Fernando Valley, you would have to commute all the way from Long Beach to there, and it would take about 3 hours. A lot of things shoot up there in this little region. And it would be shorter to go to LAX and get a flight to Denver than to like rush hour or drive all the way up to this place. So that's just like some ways. And what it does is it saves a couple of bucks on production's end, but for film workers, they have to travel. A lot of their day is spent traveling and working. I mean, if that honestly took 3 hours, you have a 12-hour day, that's almost 18 hours to get up there. And everyone lives in different places. I had a production where in New York we were just inside the zone. We were shooting at Harmon Park, which is it's just outside the zone on the Hudson River. And I live in Brooklyn, and we had a call around like 7 a.m. up in that spot. So I had to get up at in order to make the subway too, because subways are running that much, I had to get up at 4 a.m. or so in order to make the subway to get to a shuttle bus on 96th Street to get all the way that would take me to the location. And it was just really long days. And at the that kind of stuff you don't get paid for. So it's stuff like that.
But also, just to be clear, so you said earlier you're not part of the union that is striking. What is the union that is striking? What does that encapsulate?
That's IATSE, which let me look up what that stands for real quick. But that union covers grip, electric, camera, sound, I believe. I believe set deck is under there as well. It covers just about everyone except for producers, directors, writers, and actors. They all have their own unions.
But they're all above. They're all above the line.
They're all above the line too, so it's different.
Yeah, I mean above the line, they're the ones that are getting all the special treatment for the most part. Yeah. And this includes PAs as well. Did you say that? Does it include?
No, PAs are not in a union.
They're not in the union. They don't have a union.
Yeah,
Damn.
But they're not in a union, but it's almost like it's kind of part of the problem. There's a really good episode of Bojack Horseman where all the Hollywood assistants decide to unionize. And it's it might be a couple of episodes actually in the background, but what ends up happening in the show, I believe, is they all unionize in order to get better working standards, but their lives end up being just as bad because now they have to deal with union negotiations. And it's kind of like they did all this work to kind of get to pretty much the same place they were before. And I feel like that kind of encapsulates the sort of PA lifestyle as far as how it relates to unionizing. I mean, and at least at the job I'm on right now, we're talking about if there's a strike, what happens. And my boss, who's a coordinator, she's not in the PGA yet, but I think on her next day she'll be qualified. But she was saying because there is a coordinator guild that she's in, so she would be able to strike, but technically we wouldn't. And she would say, you do have the option to strike in solidarity, which even though you're not part of a union, you can still do that. So that is a thing that's on people's mind. But yeah.
Yeah, Connor, you had a long weekend, or a long week, sorry. Talk a little bit about what you went through this week, because like we said, 12 hours is the minimum, basically, when the rest of the world, over 8 hours is like,
It ain't like that. Yeah, then you start to complain and
yeah,
you can't see your family.
yeah. So Connor, tell us about kind of some of the things that you've gone through this week and in the past, and
tell us.
Yeah, let me tell you the problems about my job that I'm currently working in specific detail, which I've signed an NDA about, and on the internet. I'm going to tell you all about it.
Whoa.
Well, you haven't said the job. You haven't said what the thing is.
Yeah, I'll just have to stay vague enough. I mean,
we can disguise your voice, or we can do things that's happened in the past. You don't have to.
I mean, the difficulties I endure on this job are really no different than any other PA. And I could go into like the daily trials and tribulations of being a PA. Like, you basically, you got to be there for 12 hours and you can't have a regular work-life balance, and you're helping other people create things, so you can never create something for yourself, and you're sort of just like pursuing this myth of being a PA that it's going to somehow get you to the right connections, and if you just keep doing that, then you'll be fine, and then eventually you burn out, or you just like get in the union and then you feel safe in the union, so you don't do anything for yourself and stuff like that. But the real problem is the agricultural revolution, which happened thousands and thousands of years ago, when foragers and hunter-gatherers decided to stop foraging and hunting-gathering, instead stayed in one place and cultivated crops because they thought that would make their lives easier. But in fact, it just made it more burdensome.
Well, I've never heard of this.
I agree.
This thing. Are you talking about the creation of like a city, or about?
Essentially, I mean, it's just when people stopped moving, when they thought, wait, I think we can actually like be more comfortable and safer if we just like plant the food ourselves instead of going out and finding it. But we ended up kind of dooming ourselves, because it actually ended up being more work. Hunter-gatherers and foragers on average only work 35 to 40 hours a week. But then agriculturists and farmers typically work 60 hours a week, and it's more demanding work. And also they have a less varied diet, because they're basically just like making one thing, whereas like if you're a hunter-gatherer, you're getting all sorts of stuff in nature, so you're a healthier, more active person.
So though this may sound kind of bizarre to people who are listening right now, I do believe that to solve a problem, we need to find the source of the cancer, if you will. And you're saying that it began all the way back then. How can we take this simple idea of foragers and travelers, or gather hunters, and try to see what was wrong with them stopping and put it to us today?
Interesting. What do you think, Nick?
Can you repeat your question, Zach?
My question is...
Yeah, what is your question?
Okay, you know what? I'll ask the question as an answer. So, Connor just said that how this all really started is that we stopped really expanding. Or really, like, a lot of us, like, just hunkered down and just grew out. So perhaps we need to figure out a way for us PAs or whatever to have room to grow in our jobs.
Well, one problem with the agricultural revolution is that it made masters, and it made masters and peasants, right? Because there could be one person who is like, I want you to toil my field. I don't want to get my own food. You go do it for me. And so that
I feel like
This is starting to sound like communism.
I think,
or like
Connor, you're focusing on things.
For communism.
It is that's a very macro situation. But I'm saying
maybe
the PA situation that we have right now, it's like a subset of that situation. What?
It's directly tied to the agricultural revolution.
It is not.
I think what Connor is saying is that it's allegorical. It's very similar. You could look at the agricultural revolution and how hunter gatherers thought, well, instead of it's rough out here, I should get some comfort and security by creating a farm. And that's kind of like if you're a PA and you're like, if you're an aspiring filmmaker and you're like, well, I should be a PA, I should get in a union, I should do something similar. That's kind of like building a farm where you actually have a master and you actually only get one thing all the time, and you actually can't do whatever you want. You actually get a less varied diet. It's kind of like, when you're an office PA and you're like, well, I'm going to do this so I can keep getting money instead of, freelancing and trying to make my own short films and whatever.
But in like our lives now, can you think of any other friend besides, I think, maybe being a doctor or being maybe a lawyer? I actually don't know the schedule of a lawyer, but I feel like that might be a little bit more of a 9 to 5. But I feel like outside of the production, there's not a whole lot of jobs that have the same intensity of where it's 12 hours is expected to be the minimum, or they expect you, in my case, to work, nights from 3 p.m. till 1 a.m., 2 a.m., whenever it needs to be done every single day, Monday to Friday. Like
Also,
it's kind of it's our field. There's that whole like broader issue of it, and then there's more specific intensified version of it within the production community.
Also, another difference between that is like with doctors, if you are rising up through the ranks, your goal is to eventually become, like, not goal, but you eventually do become a doctor or a higher up to that degree. I don't know, with production PAs, it's really, not everybody gets to become a, cinematographer or director.
Or a coordinator or whatever, like even coordinators, like. But
then again, that's the life of the entertainment business. It's just.
But that's the thing. That's what this all kind of boils down to, is like what. It's. Nick was saying about how it's the frog in the water or whatever, where it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Boiling water. Will it ever change? Like, will this intensity of expecting 12-hour work days, like, do you think this will ever change, Nick or Connor?
If it does, it would have to be really gradual. It could start with this contract. The two biggest points in this contract they're trying to get negotiated is one is wages for new media. Anything that's on a streaming site is considered new media, and under current regulations, that means they can pay a lower wage. So the idea is that now we're looking at everything that we see as new media, i.e. streaming shows and movies. It's not anymore. It's normal. And so many shows are being made of that, and so many shows are charging the crew less than they could. That's one point. And the other point is reducing 12-hour days to 10-hour days, which is insane because it's already a lot.
Yeah.
But so if that could start, if the strike happens and somehow that gets negotiated, which honestly, even I hate to be not hopeful, I'm not even sure about the 10 hours. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be possible. But the point is, if that could start, that could lead to a nice gradual change. There's the idea of French hours, which it's funny. Every time I talk to someone about French hours, we each have a different understanding of what French hours actually are. I thought they were 9 to 5 and there's no lunch. That's what I think French hours are.
Yeah, and no.
And no lunch. Well, the French in general are very, like, their whole.
And you get a baguette.
That'd be great. I feel like the French, that their whole thing is they're very strict about whenever you like clock out. It's like there's there's someone like dragging a piece of metal outside.
Yeah, there's construction outside, or they just
Yeah. So sorry, but I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it's
super
very
loud.
Very loud. They've been doing construction on our street this whole entire week. Yeah.
Cons of being part of a union?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't work on non-union things, which isn't a big problem when you're working on big sets. But if, for example, you want to work on an indie film that's non-union, that could be a problem. A friend of mine is an aspiring DP, and he just got into the camera union, and you could work your way up to the DP. But the other option too is DPing on like music videos and commercials and other non-union things, and he can't do that because he's union.
So this friend, I'm just gonna imagine if this was my friend, and now he's union. He can't work on my like super small budget indie thing.
Yeah, I mean he could, and fudge it, but it's I don't know exactly what the repercussions are, but you're not supposed to do that. If you were a union DP and you worked on a non-union indie film and it became a big deal, that could be a problem.
Who knows? Maybe the penalty is just you get tarred and feathered, and then paddled. Maybe that's just the punishment.
You could.
We don't know. It's never happened. No one's dared try.
Yeah, that's scare tactics. That's how it is.
Classic.
Do any of you guys hope that one day you'll be union?
I would say that's a hope.
If I'm writing or directing, something like that.
I know for acting, if you get into like 3 commercials, like when I had a small stint as an extra, which was fun, everybody talked about getting unioned. Yeah, and you have to be in certain things to be unionized.
Yeah. It's just the whole cycle. In order to get into the union, you have to get work, but in order to get work, you have to be in the union.
Well, anyways, let's wrap this up. We have some hard outs.
Yeah, I gotta go water my poppy seeds.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for doing this, guys. And maybe the next episode will be in a studio.
And Sam actually wrote you a song to play you guys out.
Oh,
Well,
thanks, Sam.
actually, that's a good point. There is the song that we're gonna be playing you guys out on. It's by Palberta. They agreed to have us play this song. It's a local New York band, Brooklyn band. This song is called Red Ants.
Play it.
So this is them. Thanks for listening.
Wait, is the song called Them?
It's called Red Ants.
Oh, okay.
All right. Bye-bye. All right.
Is it playing right now?
Yeah.